What makes One Punch Man one of my favorite series of all times? Well, I'll tell you. So when I first watched the first season of One Punch Man, I wasn't quite sure what I'd gotten myself into. And oh boy, I was pretty shocked. All the bombacity and over-the-top action, the comedy, it all put me in a little bit of a shock. And Puri Puri Prisoner. I'm sure you guys were all a little shocked the first time you saw Puri Puri Prisoner. And I wasn't sure, really, if I should be taking this series seriously or if it was all one big gag or joke. Initially, this had turned me off to the idea, but I still watched all the first season and enjoyed myself to a reasonable degree. Then, when the second season released, I found myself curious again, and I tuned in to watch it, just to leave with that same empty feeling, I guess. A few years had passed, and I remembered the series. I sat there and thought to myself, I wonder how far ahead the manga is. What's the manga like? Is it any good? So, I went ahead and read the manga. And that's when I truly fell in love with One Punch Man. Reading the manga, you pick up directly after the events of Season 2, with Garou being carried off by Phoenix Man to meet with the Villain Association and the defeat of the Elder Centipede. I think directly after the events is really when the story begins to take off and where the anime fails to capture the bigger picture of the One Punch Man world. We learn about how monsters have planned to strike against humanity. We also get a more fleshed out description of the Heroes Association, including more hands-on time with every amazing S-Class hero. One of my problems with my initial exposure, that being to the anime, was that I didn't really understand the S-Class heroes and what they had stood for individually. The manga had solved this issue entirely by giving each and every character their own personal spotlight to show off their abilities and character traits. Whether it be Child Emperor reaching in his backpack and having to fight against the ever-living Phoenix Man, or watching the never-dying Zombieman have to fight a real vampire. But there was one character in particular that always stood out to me. Garou. Garou's the character who appears in Season 2 of the anime, but we just only get to see the seedlings of his development. Garou's the self-appointed monster, with the intent to break down the status quo of monsters and heroes. He had gained these ideals from a young age when he was on a playground with some kids who had played hero. He watched as the kid who would have to play villain would get beaten up by everybody else. Garou thought this was unfair and stepped in to intervene, only to have the kids appoint Garou as the new monster. The other kids then held him down and proceeded to pummel him. Garou then went on to train under the famous Silverfang, an S-Class hero who ran a dojo teaching the eloquent Fist of Water Stream Rock Smashing. After a few years of training there, Garou had decided, well, he'd learned everything that he would need, and he proceeded to slaughter everybody else at the dojo, deeming himself a monster, the hero hunter Garou. We as viewers then get to witness time and again as Garou valiantly struggles against tougher and tougher opponents, pushing him to the brink of his abilities and trying to break his limiter. The way his fights and encounters are written are that of pure genius. I know morally his actions aren't just, but I can't help but hope that he could kick some ass. And that's just it. Watching Garou overcome his struggles to me is one of the best parts of this series. Then we have the flip side of the same coin, Saitama. We watch as Saitama doesn't have to overcome anything anymore and searches high and low for anyone or anything that could push him to his limits or feel any emotion. Becoming as powerful as he has, he finds that life has no hardships anymore. And without hardships, is life actually worth living anymore? And to me, it's just so interesting to see the dichotomy between these two and how both ends of the spectrum feel. I guess the grass is greener on the other side. Throw in that amazing writing with amazingly bizarre characters such as Puri Puri Prisoner, Platinum Sperm. Yes, there's someone literally named Platinum Sperm. Or Zombieman. Or maybe the ever-cool Genos, the OP Tatsumaki, or even the mysterious Blast. And speaking of mysteries, that's another thing I absolutely adore about this series. There are so many mysteries at play here, from the very foundation of where do these heroes get their powers? Or where do monsters come from? Which at the beginning were things I thought were not going to get explained, and I'm glad the manga kind of throws in a few hints about that. I mean, and we even get to things of the ideals of gods, or trying to find your purpose in life. For how goofy this series came off to me initially, it truly does tackle some deep subjects without ramming the exposition down your throat. And the fights in One Punch Man. The fights! Top-notch shonen fights, easily, bar none. The way they're drawn, the powers on display, the crazy things going on. And not to mention the art. I mean, the art just speaks for itself. Everything is so grandiose and flashy. Flash. Get it? It's flashy flash joke. Anyway, I could probably ramble about this all day and why I love One Punch Man, and maybe I will another time. And yeah, this was a little rushed and jumbled, but hey, I just wanted to talk about it. It's become my second favorite series, only behind One Piece. And if you know One Piece, come on. But if you want any more depth videos over this, anything One Punch Man, over specific characters, fights, new chapters, anything, please let me know in the comments. Go ahead, please. Anyway, guys, I really appreciate the support. Peace. Oh yeah, and King's not only the strongest, but also the best character in fiction.